Ah, woo! Werewolves of London. There might be something a little bit wrong with me, folks. I'm not 100% sure. What do you reckon?
What are the humans doing?
Do you think you're ready? Can you handle the truth? Or are you in denial and demanding more proof? They demonstrate in real time how they're spinning you lies, but no one pays attention, no one opens their eyes. They walk around like zombies with their head in the mobiles, signaling their virtues with a pick on their profile. Yeah. Signaling their virtues with a pick on their profile. So if you think you're ready, you don't need more proof. Conspiracy deniers are denying the truth. They fabricate our problems and pretend to provide the best solution, but we all know they lied. They lied about the weapons and they lied about health. They lied about the fact that they're transferring the wealth. You should really notice how they're pushing the fear. Keep everybody terrified and not thinking clear. Yeah. Everybody's not thinking clear. Keep everybody terrified. Yeah, thinking and not thinking. Keep everybody terrified and not thinking clear. When you do, you realize that this is their trick. It's getting really stupid now, they're taking the mic. Said, do you think you're ready? Can you handle the truth? Or are you in denial and demanding more proof? They demonstrate in real time how they're spinning you lies, but no one pays attention, no one opens their eyes. They walk around like zombies with their head in the mobiles, signaling their virtues with a pick on their profile. Yeah. Signaling their virtues on their profile. Hey.
Oh, Sasquatch? Oh, yeah, he's like the Sandy Waxler of YouTubes.
Next time he'll get his own ketchup.
I always forget that's there. All right, bud, hold up. I got old guy Mitch up. Oh, I did not do the right thing. There we go. Now I've done the right thing. I got old guy
Yo,
Mitch.
peoples.
We are going to be discussing the Stanford prison experiment, how close they got to an actual prison experience versus how close they got to an actual experiment. I'm not too sure they got anywhere near either one of these things. But Mitch, tell them who you is and what you did, what you do.
You know, I'm old guy Mitch. I did a lot of time, and I got some kind of disagreements with the Stanford Prison Project because I've been there, done that, and some of that stuff I saw, I really didn't agree with Sasquatch.
I understand that. So what I've got over here is the ultimate secret of life. Oh no, not at all. What I've got over here is The Dark Side of Science, the horrific Stanford prison experiment of 1971. And it's done by Plainly Difficult, whose link I'm going to drop in the chat because I'm one of those nice guys that does stuff like that. Because this guy does excellent work. He really does. Go check him out. He does fantastic stuff. But before we get started, you're familiar with the Stanford prison experiment right off the rip, right?
I am. I had I had time to look at it.
But
And
we're going to go through it. He does a very thorough job. It should jog any memories or whatever. But when they started planning this thing, the very beginning of it, it's a failed experiment. The very first step of this process was a total failure because they utilized basic students and basically homeless guys uh, as their source for quote unquote prisoners and guard. Then they basically just randomly handed out the prisoner and guard scenario, which is not even a thing. Like, that makes no sense. Just got an email from Samuel the Infamous. Seems I have been invited to the Friday night musings. Cool.
hmm,
I'll have to participate in that type of thing. That'll be cool. Yeah, where was that? I'm sorry, I got distracted. Oh yeah, absolute failure. It was an absolute failure from the very beginning because the methodology they used to pick and choose their subjects was flawed. It was essentially blind. And I'm not trying to be an asshole when I say this, but generally people aren't in jail because it's a Tuesday.
pretty much.
People are in jail for reasons, whether it's real reasons, made up reasons, artificial, whatever.
But
They're there
there's
for a reason.
always a reason.
So these people have no reason to be put in this situation other than they volunteered for an experiment.
Not realizing that this experiment was a form of torture.
It basically is. From the very get-go, every single one of the people involved immediately overstepped their bounds. But part of this, I think, comes from the fact none of these people were trained as guards.
And none of the people were trained as inmates. They have no clue what to do or what they expect.
Exactly.
They were just shoved in there and said, "Do this."
Yeah, you're a prisoner, you're a guard, y'all go be prisoners and guard. I just don't think that's a very valuable experiment premise.
It's like taking a Hollywood script and making it real life as an experiment. Because that's the way I look at it. That's what it looks like to me. It was a Hollywood script tried as a real life experiment just to see what would happen, to see if it would float.
Make stupid people famous is talking about marriage.
Yeah.
But in a worse experiment for longer. You talking about marriage, dude? I suspect he's talking about marriage. Anyway, all right. So we're going to go through this first bit. He does like his little pitch in his ad and explains what it's all about. Then we're going to discuss, see where we're at on this whole thing, because there is a sort of crescendo of disaster that takes place. How long did the experiment last? It was only like 7 days, right?
Yeah, and it lasted like 6 or 7 days. It didn't even make it to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That
It was supposed to be a 2-week experiment. It got called off after 6 days because people are evil. Just individuals, random assholes in the streets are just evil.
Yeah, but you give a man power and he loses his mind.
It's power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Thank you, Smoking Auditor, for doing all that work. That's good stuff.
Yeah. With great power comes great responsibility. That's what they say.
All right, we're gonna let this roll for about 4 minutes straight. I think minute and a half or so.
It is the summer of 1971, and several college students are being arrested at their homes by Palo Alto, California police and charged with armed robbery and burglary, penal codes 211 and 459. Although none of these men had previously committed a crime, college students getting arrested is not a unique thing. Slightly out of the ordinary, the men had a good idea this would be happening, and stranger still, the whole event is being filmed. All of this, although odd, could feasibly happen, but the whole pantomime has a strangely fake feeling about it. Maybe the alleged criminals are more hardened than their records would suggest. No passers-by would know this, but all of the men are being paid to be arrested, but not by some organised crime group, but instead by university. What is actually happening is the beginning of one of the most controversial and well-known psychological studies. The experiment's orchestrator would have to end the study short, as the participants would take things beyond what he expected. Today we're looking at the Stanford prison experiment, and I'm going to give my rating for this one at the end of the video. Let's see what you think.
All right. So right out of the gate, we've already caused a major flaw in any experimental attempt. The participants being paid.
But you can see right from the start how it went. If they was
Yeah.
being arrested for robbery, they wouldn't have came to the house like that and walked them across the street with one man. They would have came 2 or 3 deep or better to get each one of them people. They wouldn't, because they already got a robbery charge. They already know they gangster.
It's all political. It's all theater.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said from the beginning, it reminded me of a movie script acted out in real life.
Exactly.
Lawless. I see you down there, brother.
Yeah, baby. In a world where lawless reels. Clip that for me. It'd be great. So for out of the box, they've already decided that these people are going to be prisoners, and so they were sent cops to arrest them, made a big show of it so they could get all the information they could get from it. There is only one valuable piece of information that was derived from this experiment that I've been able to divine, but I'm going to save it till the end of the video when we wrap all this up, right? Because I had to think real hard to come up with one good thing that happened. Can you think of a good thing?
It taught people not to just jump head first into no damn experiment.
Well, that's true. No one's voted from the rooftops today for more years of control. I don't. Sometimes you confuse me more than I confuse other people, and that warms the cockles of my heart. Oh,
you gotta love make famous, because there's absolutely no telling how he's gonna say what he's gonna say.
Thank you, my love. Wife squatch, doing the wife squatchy things. Apparently, I'm fixing to have a whole drove of people wander through, and then they're going to wander back out. But of course, they wait until I'm live to do this. So let's let this roll for a minute, see how this plays out.
Philip George Zimbardo was born on the 23rd of March 1933 in New York State, United States. In his early years, he suffered discrimination due to his Italian ancestry and was quite often carelessly mistaken for a multitude of other ethnic backgrounds. The young Zimbardo, like many other people covered in this series, used this all too common human behavior as a spark for his interest in psychology. In the early 1950s, he attended Brooklyn College, graduating with a BA, boasting 3 majors in psychology, sociology, and anthropology. The next year, he went on to earn an MA, and by 1959 had also earned a PhD, both from Yale in psychology. Zimbardo briefly stayed on at Yale to teach psychology from 1959 to 1960. Whilst there, he married Rose Abelner and had a son in 1962.
So he has a solid background in the proper types of science to try to manage something like this.
But what's interesting about it though is the way he formed it. He's got anthropology in there with his psychology. He studied the culture of the people that he was planning on conducting his experiments on, who were the best candidates for this psychotic experiment he had in mind to get back at people. Think about all the time they snubbed him and called him all this name. What
Yeah,
better way to get back at the people that snubbed you and called you names and called you out of your race and all that?
I
You
am one
get
of those
degrees.
assholes. I am one of those assholes who will sit and smile smugly while everyone around me loses their mind.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
just sit there.
but think about what he did. He got a degree in anthropology to go along with his psychology and sociology degree and all that other stuff he had to study to get them degrees. Anthropology teaches you about the culture of the people. The same thing Sun Tzu said. You defeat an enemy by knowing his culture, the way he thinks, what he eats, what he does.
You are singing my song now, brother. I
But
can't.
I'm looking at his frame of mind.
Yeah, no, I hear
He
you.
he was snubbed. So okay,
I have a copy of Sun Tzu on every single phone I've ever owned since I could put a book on one.
but I'm looking at the way he phrased his degrees. His degrees say a lot about his character and the set and the frame of his mindset.
I hadn't thought about it, but you're correct. He came from anthropology to psychology, which is culture to concept.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Culture and concept form an idea. An idea forms a thought. A thought forms a process. A process turns into a reality if you push it hard enough.
It becomes an action. Taken to
Exactly.
conclusion, it becomes an action. What's up, Stickman
And
Outdoors?
every one of those actions becomes a reaction. He knew exactly what he was doing. He showed the world that he could get back at everybody from all walks of life that snubbed him when he was coming up with the
All right,
most psychotic experiment.
this is madness. It's absolute madness from the very beginning. Let's get to this next one.
It's diabolical in its concept, though.
Yeah, no, from the very beginning, the whole idea is just madness. It is, like you said, psychotic. The idea anyway, y'all see it's got a framework, but the framework is insane.
Man, but think about I just said that based on what was just said in these first couple minutes.
Yeah. That's why I love this dude. He goes all the way back to the beginning. Like, homie was born on such and such a date. There's the thing in the newspaper. Y'all can check on it if you want to. His stuff's solid. He brings receipts. It's good researcher.
But he left Yale when offered a job as a professor at New York University, where he would stay in the role until 1967. In 1967, he would move again to Columbia University, which would be brief, as he was offered a faculty position at Stanford University in 1968. Just 3 years later, he was offered and accepted in 1971 a tenured position as a professor of psychology. The same year, Zimbardo and Rose would divorce. As a side note, Rose was a very well accomplished academic in her own right, specialising in English literature. And this rather quickly brings us onto the experiment that would write Zimbardo's name in history. Zimbardo was interested in how the US prison system had seemed to foster a pure hatred between prisoners and guards. Was the explanation for this purely down to the nature of the people involved? For example, are the conditions bad because criminals are bad, or because the administrators are likely to be harsh? In reality, it is probably impossible to know, and it feels like a chicken and egg situation, as if a prisoner breaks the rules, then the rules are made tougher, leading to more prisoners breaking the rules. Naturally, both sides of the bars would distrust one another.
All right. How do you feel about that one?
Now, he's accurate to a point because you got, like, in Florida, you got guards that just come in and do their 8 and hit the gate. Then you got other ones, they come in asshole from the rip. Soon as they walk through the gate, they start screaming and yelling.
Right.
So that coin is 50-50. Because there's officers in there that they just there to do their job and nothing else. They ain't there to fuck with people. But then you got those ones that come in and want to start some shit because they couldn't beat the wife because she wasn't at home.
Oh wow, that's hardcore, dude. Nah, there is an association between prison guards and police versus domestic violence, and that is, what is it, 23% or something like that,
Something
27.
like that. Yeah, something like that. And
There's
I've
a
witnessed
secret
it.
bar. Hold on, let me cover this right quick. There is a secret bar whisper that you can tell the bartender that will get you an Uber and a police officer stat. And it has to do with ordering something 27% or 23%. I can't remember what it is, but it exists. Y'all can Google it, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's like 20, it's 20-some%, but I've witnessed it, and I've literally been standing in the ditch with a sling blade with an alligator swimming by, and I heard the slap, and I turned around, and the dude was in the yard slapping the shit out of his wife. The man pulled a shotgun on me and told me, "You better not." I walked over there. I said, "Dude, you better not hit her again. If you hit her again, I'm gonna hit you with this sling blade, because we ain't having that shit around here today."
Can I do something funny right quick? Please.
Go ahead.
Some folks call it a sling blade. I call it a Kaiser blade. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But hey, I've seen some fucked up shit, Sasquatch.
We're trying to keep it sort of YouTube
Yeah.
pure if possible. I'm sure
Yeah.
you have. I know you have. I've been backstage with you a couple of times, so you know.
Yeah, I don't say a lot about a lot of stuff I've seen, but this, I'm telling you, man, this dude was diabolical in his thinking process.
Oh, I agree. That's why I named it what I did. I think I'm going to do a whole series called Monsters by Design, about the people who do horrible things.
Believe it or not, the prison system creates monsters on both sides of the fence because of the shit everybody has to deal with. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's see, none of this is good. No aspect of it's good. If we could have a society where we didn't have prisons, that would be absolutely lovely. Unfortunately, some people are not safe amongst people.
Exactly.
They're just not. I'm not judging anyone for it. I'm not saying that there's any particular cause. I'm just saying there are individuals. I have met some of these people. I had a friend of mine, and I'm not going to say his last name, but Mike. I called him Mississippi Mike, and he was in jail for a triple count of murder. He did like 15 years and was let out on good behavior, and had all kinds of all sorts of not degrees exactly, but like prison education system stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were degrees. And he was one of the nicest guys I ever met. And the only reason he had gone to jail was because somebody had done something to his sister, and two people tried to stop him from responding.
I know a lot of people that are in. I know a lot of people that are in prison like that.
So, I mean, I don't, and maybe that was a lie and wasn't true, but he did not strike me as the type of person who would invent some trash. He just told me he got a triple life sentence and had it commuted because he's such a nice guy. He didn't have to tell me that at all.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, he was sitting alone at a table at the break tent, and I walked in and sat down. I said, "Why won't anybody sit with you?" He said, "Because I killed 3 people." So tell me about
it. You like me. So what happened?
My ham sandwich, dude. I was like, "Tell me about it."
See, and that's the kind of response for people like us. It's different because most people walk away and don't want nothing to do with you when they hear that kind of stuff, because they're not used to people that are real. They're used to fake people all the time, and real people are a dying breed. I say exactly what I mean, Sasquatch, and I mean what I say, because I've seen the worst of the worst, and I've seen the best of the best, and I've seen some of the realest of the real people, and there ain't many of them left.
Right.
That's why
common sense is no longer common. That is certainly true.
That's why I always say I deal in common logic, because there ain't no such thing as common sense no more.
Right. Yeah, no, Smoking Auditor is an absolute mod god. And he takes direction well. He's fantastic. He also does really cool shorts. He's outdone me in the past couple of weeks
Yeah.
easily.
Smoke is cool as fuck. He be everywhere.
He all over the place. All right, let's try to get through this next bit. We got three segments on this. He's going to talk about the setup of the experiment, the selection process, then the setup, then
Look at
the
this
methodology.
this is an old prison.
Mm-hmm.
Because
They used a physical set that was accurate, but
yeah,
the entire setup is going to be wrong.
and notice the flap. They got flaps on the doors. There's no windows and no window slots to look in. They got to open the flap to look in. There ain't no slots on those doors. There's only a food slot. There's only a food slot on those doors. There ain't no window slots. That's what I kept looking at it. There's no window slots on those doors.
There's no communication. Those walls don't look like you're going to be whispering through them.
Now, see, that's the whole thing. It looks bigger. The walls look thicker on the outside than they actually are on the inside.
Ah.
And a lot of times they have a vent that blows air between the rooms so you can talk to each other through the vent. Or you can learn a code to knock on the wall to talk to each other.
Sunshine's really good too. Judd's awesome. He is, but he I don't know if he's well or not. I don't know what the deal is, but he hasn't been around a whole lot. He shows up sometimes. We miss him. He can be my little spoon.
And I'm looking at it. That's why I say you can tell this dude was diabolical because I'm looking at these doors while we're having this conversation.
Well, this doors
don't look right.
Hold on. This is background imagery of previous prisons in the U.S. and how the prisoners were largely treated in the setup. This isn't actually the location of the thing. They did do it in an old like was it a prison or a jail cell? Like it was like a jail.
It probably was a jail.
Yeah, I think it was a jail. We'll see. He'll tell us in a second.
Which can create a downward spiral. One thing that is true today as it was in the 1970s is such high recidivism rates. Purely by the nature of being a prisoner, you become isolated from society. And this isn't unique to the US. We have very much the same situation here in the UK. But what if you can eliminate the deep-rooted hatred?
Okay, you said something before we went live about isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Take that from the top, bud. That was really good. I really like that.
Think about isolation is an experiment that you don't see. This is the government's greatest experiment. People don't realize it, and it's the experiment the government never talks about. You isolate people behind chain link and razor wire. Then you isolate them in an 8x10 cell. And then in that isolation, you isolate a person from everybody with no communication. It causes one or two things. Either you become strong or you flush your birth certificate down the toilet.
Yeah, you no longer see yourself as a person.
And like what I was telling Sasquatch, that's how you fix stupid. Stupid can be fixed. You just don't have to fix it. It's just the way you go about it.
Yeah, you have an absolute point. No one ever discusses the amount of isolation that takes place in a prison. I mean, it is talked about lightly, but when we talk about it, we talk about it from the perspective of someone from on the outside saying, oh, yeah, solo isolation is barbaric, but you might have to put them in the hole for a while. Well, the hole is just a deeper hole. It's not much more isolated than you currently are in Gen Pop when you're locked in your cell.
Right. But when you're in a place where you're in an 8x10 cell for 24 hours a day for years on end and you can't go nowhere, either you go crazy or you get real smart.
Right. You start reading or working out or doing something to occupy your mind, or you lose it.
All we could read when I did those 9 years, all we could read was religious books. I read every religion known to man, and some I wouldn't recommend to most people.
Right.
I read the whole entire Vedic text.
Dude, that is a commitment. I can't honestly say that I've done that, and I've read a
I've
lot.
read the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, and all.
Oh my god, I bet we could just sit and dissect all of that. How about the Mahabharata?
I read that too. I've
Dude,
even read I've even read the Epic of Gilgamesh.
yeah,
I've read the Ruby Head of Omar Khayyam.
right.
But
Okay, now, you had time, right?
exactly. But this is what isolation does. It either makes you smart or it makes you totally insane or it makes you flush your birth certificate down the toilet. Depends on how you use isolation.
All right.
Isolation is an experiment within itself. That's what this guy was understanding. He understood isolation from a different transport. Watch what he does.
You're correct. It's totally diabolical. Absolutely diabolical. Yeah, no, watch what he does. Let's check it out.
Between those themselves and those with the keys. And this is where Zimbardo comes in, as can you get rid of his hatred by using a randomly selected group of people who are neither guards or prisoners, and by splitting these random people up into the different roles. You've essentially created a prison scene without the natural distrust between the administrators of the law and the breakers of the law. Zimbardo managed to secure financing for the experiment from the US Office of the Navy. The Navy wanted to understand antisocial behaviour and by extension wanted to investigate conflict between military guards and prisoners. His experiment would involve university students playing the roles of guards and prisoners for a princely sum of $15 per day. Zimbardo would be the research team leader and would in 1997, in a Stanford University News interview, say, "I wondered, along with my research associates, Craig, Curtis and Carlo, what would happen if we aggregated all of these processes, making some subjects feel de-invigilated, others dehumanized within the anonymous environment in the same experimental setting, and where we could carefully document the process over time."
All right. So this is an important point. He has put too many variables into what he is calling an experiment.
But now you understand what I mean about how diabolical this was.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. It was like the concept of the word de-individuated.
Exactly. Isolation at its purest. You
To
take
quote, making some subjects feel de-individuated, others dehumanized with an anonymous environment.
isolation within isolation within isolation. Plus, you take their humanity along with their individuality. You make them think that they're no longer a human or a man, but you're just a piece of meat for me to do it as I will.
Woof.
That's basically what he's saying.
It's just so evil. I mean, from the very beginning. And the thing is like if he had predicted that these people were going to do the diabolical things that they ended up doing, he should have never permitted the experiment in the first place. Except, I told y'all earlier, there is one good thing that came from the experiment. And that one good thing is proof that power corrupts. And absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Look what he said though before he talked about being individuated. He said, what would happen if we aggregated all of these processes? And look what the processes, he said, aggravate. He wants to aggravate each one of these by prodding the bear to attack the honeycomb. He said he's going to de-individuate them, dehumanize them with an anonymous environment. That means he's gonna blindfold them and put them in the room. That's the only way you can make a place anonymous or put a bag over someone's head.
That's basically where we end up over here. But
look at it. It said in an experimental setting where he can carefully document the process over time. He knew exactly what was gonna happen.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what
You
makes this an unethical experiment.
exactly. This was. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of an experiment Joseph Mengele was doing.
Um, yeah, no, you're not wrong, but
Think about
this was
think about what Joseph Mengele was doing though, with working
no,
on
no,
creating
no.
Hitler super soldiers.
Mengele was taking advantage of the features that this experiment shows. The fact that
Exactly.
you can take individuals who are no better than those around them and make them all powerful, power hungry gods of punishment.
Exactly. He took what Mengele was doing with the super soldier experiment and took it one step further. What can you psychologically do to them to mentally tear them all the way down to nothing and rebuild them in the image that you want them to be rebuilt in? He was trying to create a whole cast of human monsters that would go out and terrorize the neighborhoods that they were in.
Monsters by design.
Mm.
Exactly.
Oh, I
Exactly.
understood that. I understood that title well. I,
Yeah, no, I thought it
I,
was
I,
very fitting.
I
I
fit
mean,
that cat. I fit that category well because they created a monster by design. They just didn't realize it.
I'm not sure it's a question of whether or not they realized it. I don't know that anyone cares. This is
They,
what bothers me.
they don't care because they want the monsters that they create loose on society, but they don't realize some of us that are monsters are smarter than they are
Give
because
them time.
eh, they gave us time to do nothing but study. Think about, and then years later, after all the lawsuits and all that stuff, we got to get all these books from the interstate library and all this stuff. Think about the stuff we was getting a hold of then we could have people send us books. I've read philosophy and everything.
Mhm. How much have you gotten into Diogenes?
The only thing different between Diogenes and Socrates is Diogenes had a better concept of the people around him and their thought process.
He had no chill.
And he
He had
didn't.
no chill. When Socrates decided to define the human form as a non-feathered bipedal uh, creature, mammal, no creature before mammals, Diogenes plucked a chicken and threw it into the Senate and told him, "There is your man."
Hmm.
No
But
chill. He had zero chill.
that's just like, you ever read Dante?
Yeah.
Did you read all of them?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Okay. Now,
Such
and
were the nighttime tales in Sasquatch Resonance was Dante's Inferno and like the Norse,
yeah,
but
see,
the Vedas, you know,
yeah. See, I
myth,
like, I like, I like Dante. Dante had a good concept, like, but you have to read the Divine Comedy
right?
because that's the first depiction of a red devil anywhere with cloven hoofs, horns, a
And why
forked
was
tongue,
it
and a
tail?
tail.
Yep.
And if you read the Divine Comedy when he's going through all the planes of hell,
Yeah, no.
this this is the same experiment that he's conducting, Dante's hell, on a whole different level. Think about how sick
Fairly
Dante.
accurate.
Think about how sick Dante's mind was to come up to come up with the planes of hell where all this different stuff was going on. This dude,
Let's
this
just get
dude's
back on the
mind,
topic. Stanford prison experiment, bro.
but
We've walked a little wide.
this dude's mind is on that same level though, because it's twisted.
It's certainly twisted. It's
Yeah.
absolutely nefarious and completely evil.
Yeah.
And no part of this could possibly have worked as a
You could,
valuable experiment. The only thing you can derive from this experiment is whether or not people will do bad things just because they were told to.
yeah, it, that Now that's 100% accurate.
All right,
'Cause
let's roll a little bit more of this. We got to get through this whole thing in the next 2 hours.
we can make it.
I think we can do it.
To find his subjects, Zimbardo put out this advert in the Help Wanted section of the Palo Alto Times. Male college students needed for a psychological study of prison life. $15 per day for 1 to 2 weeks, beginning August 14th. For further information and applications, come to room 248, Jordan Hall, Stanford University. 75 men would answer the ad, and after interviews and suitability screening, which set out to exclude anyone with a criminal record, mental health condition, or any other medical issues, 24.
And there's another flaw in the experiment, rendering it useful only for one purpose: to determine whether or not perfectly rational individuals would perpetrate nefarious acts just because they were told to. Will people follow orders?
That's it. That's exactly what it was.
And there is no other beneficial source of information in this entire experiment. That's
and
it.
Notice they screened out everybody that had health problems.
Yeah, health problems, mental issues, or actual criminal records.
People in prison have all of these issues: health problems, mental health issues. They all got prison records because they're in prison. So
yes, exactly. So
you're basing your
one of these people is prisoner material.
You're basing your study on people that have none of these, that meet none of the criteria to actually be in a prison program experiment.
Exactly. And furthermore, you're going to see a little later, the guards don't really get any real guard training, and the prisoners don't really get any orientation prepping for the prison aspect of it.
Huh.
You know, it's they're just thrown in there and told to do stuff. It's nuts.
4 from the initial 75 would be selected. The group was predominantly white and middle class and had no apparent health, aggression, or legal issues in their life. In order to try and keep the results scientific, each participant was randomly given one of 2 roles: prisoner or guard. In total, 9 were in each group, with 3 substitutes. The group labelled as prisoners were told that they would not experience physical abuse, but would lose their civil liberties for between 1 and 2 weeks. Little else was given to them in terms of what would be expected of them, only that they would be contacted by telephone to be at their residence on a given Sunday for the experiment to begin. The guards had a little more guidance before the experiment, as they would be issued uniforms and equipment on the day before the commencement of the study. The equipment given to them consisted of a generic law enforcement inspired uniform, mirrored glasses to prevent the prisoners from making eye contact, as well as wooden batons. On the
All right, so we're going to cover the guard's eyes and give them a very sort of plain uniform. How does that fit with the scenario?
It doesn't, because like in Florida, it used to be like a peanut butter brown shirt and brown polyester pants. Then they started switching to gray khaki pants and a gray shirt and black boots. So they don't got no baton. They got a radio, some handcuffs, and some CS gas.
That stuff
And
weird, dude.
that stuff has no effect on me.
Well,
I've
stand
ate
up
so
for me, bro,
look,
'cause I don't want no.
I've ate OC, CS, and CN. I've ate it in a cocktail. They experimented with us in prison with this gas. When the military created this stuff, they experimented on us. The active ingredients in it are cayenne pepper and citrus. And then it's got inert chemicals that they piggyback on.
Carriers,
But
yeah.
it's for crowd control. We're in little rooms, 8x10 rooms. They're spraying this shit in.
Yeah.
You close your window and turn your back. You let them spray it, and you wait. When they open the door, when they get ready to open the door up again, you open your window back up. and as soon as they pull the door open, it sucks it out of the room right back in their face.
I don't even.
It's made for crowd control. That stuff was made for crowd control. It wasn't made for individual people. It goes
some of that
everywhere.
stuff flammable?
All of it's flammable.
That shit'll explode, won't it?
Yeah, if it gets hot enough, that shit'll blow up.
So hypothetically speaking, if there was a say a prison cook pot going on in a particular, they had, what do they call them, a hot shot set up in there.
You make you a stinger and boil that motherfucker
stinger,
hot enough.
that's it.
Yeah, you make your stinger.
Suppose
and
you had
boil
one of those stingers in there, and in the process of them gassing, it came out of the water. Could that detonate the fumes?
It's possible, but you'd have to wait. It'd have to come out like when they were spraying, when they've done sprayed like 9 times. You got to get a whole bunch of that gas in the room.
Yeah, I guess you could.
Because you got to fill a lot of space, not just the room. You got to fill the hallway and everything else. But,
dude, yeah. Oh God, that just makes my nose run just thinking about it. I used to work with a group of Mexicans, and they would carry those little CS canisters to
that stuff would light your ass up.
Yeah, they used it on their food.
And it's food seasoning.
Yeah, I know. He'd stick it in there under the gang box and be like, and then wrap it up in a burrito and eat it.
Yeah, that's just like they spray you with mace. Mace is a food season. Pepper spray, all this shit's food seasoning. Only thing that might not be food seasoning is bear mace.
That shit's serious, dude. Whoa.
Bear mace hurts.
Damn it.
But see, you can look at these students that they got though. Look at this group of students.
Oh, there's another thing I wanted to bring up. All of these people are from upper middle class backgrounds.
Yeah. But not only that, they're all the students are white. There's no black ones, there's no Hispanic ones, there's no Asian ones.
I'm telling you, it was a broken experiment from the very beginning. It never intended to do anything other than determine whether people will simply follow orders because they're told.
Yeah. We're sitting here picking this apart in segments. And what's wrong with it? You can see why it was going to fail from the start because of the way he went about it. But I think he expected it to fail.
Yeah, no, he set it up to spiral as far out of control as possible. That's what he wanted. That was the actual experiment. All of the other data that come from it was completely suspect because of the way this experiment was set up. He took a group of people who had no reason to have any type of disparity whatsoever, put them on opposite sides of bars, and discovered that absolutely every single individual on earth is evil under the right circumstances.
Exactly. It depends. That's what I tell people. Oh, I'll never go to jail, and I'll never go to prison. Don't never say never, because I've seen people that ain't never been in trouble all of a sudden end up in jail because of something happening. And sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
True. Let's get through this. Let's work on it. We gotta get to the end, or we'll never come to resolution.
Me and you could talk about this all night.
Zimbardo,
we could.
Who would be acting as the superintendent, and an undergraduate research assistant who would play the role of the warden. They were told that their assigned task was to maintain a reasonable degree of order to allow the prison to function properly, but weren't told how they could achieve this. They were told to be prepared for any unexpected incident, such as escape attempts, and they would have to write a daily shift report on guard and prisoner activities, as well as critical incident reports on any out of the ordinary event. During this time, they were told they would be responsible for the administration of meals, work, and recreational activities of the prisoners. The guards believed that the experiment was solely to see how the prisoners would act, but actually Zimbardo's team were equally interested in their approach to the prison experience, and as such, they were given deliberately vague instructions on their conduct. And to finally help immerse the guards further, they helped on the day before the study in completing the construction of the prison. Now the participants were chosen, somewhere had to be built for them to play out their new assigned roles. The university allows Zimbardo's research team to use a part of the basement of the Stanford Psychological Department's Jordan Hall. The 35-foot-long area seemed perfect for the role, with little outside light and an essentially cut off from the outside world feel. There were 3 cells, which were originally office rooms, that could accommodate 3 participants in each, and measured at a whopping 6 by 9 feet, and was pretty cramped. Each man had a cot with a pillow, blanket, and mattress, and that was it. No daylight, no clock, all of which were designed to make the prisoners lose track of time. The subjects would be locked up here for nearly 24 hours a day. Each cell also had an intercom wire set up so that experimenters could listen into conversations and also make public announcements. There was a closet that would be used as solitary confinement and measured in at a coffin like 2 by 2 by 7 feet.
Isolation inside isolation inside isolation. But
Now,
it's not accurate at all.
but now I know isolation well. But do you see what I mean about the way he designed this whole thing?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely diabolical. The whole thing.
It's totally fried. He knew exactly what this experiment was going to lead to. But it's interesting to watch his thought process as it plays out.
But God, it's so diabolical, though. I mean, monsters are monsters for a reason. Sorry.
The prison area, which was previously a corridor with offices off of it, had 2 fabricated walls, one for the entrance and another for a small observation area. The space between these walls and the prison cells was called the yard. To use the toilet, prisoners were escorted blindfolded as to further disorientate them.
All right. So from Jump Street, right out of the gate, we have already completely abandoned the concept of the prison system that this is supposed to be based off of.
And now, there's no bathroom in the room. They
Right.
have toilets in every room.
So they blindfold them, spin them around before they leave the cell, and then take them to the bathroom just to disorient them. And they do this, what, twice, 3 times a day?
Yeah, however many times they need to
That's
take them up to
torture
use
by
the
its
bathroom.
fucking self. Right there, that is torture. That's inhumane as hell.
Exactly. This whole project was about taking their humanity from them, stripping them to their bare essence. Think about this. There's 3 men in a cramped room with no toilet. It's
Probably
dark.
terrible ventilation.
Yeah, it's dark. Yeah, there's no light in this room. Even though there is a little bit of light, because even in the darkness, there's light.
Yeah.
You just got to be able to see it. But now they're light deprived. They're blindfolded and spun around and brought out of a room. Think about this is a subliminal mental torture at its evilest. Because he's got to ask the guard to bring him out to take him to the bathroom. He can't even go to the bathroom.
But yeah, like I said, the only thing this experiment actually tells you at the other end is whether or not people are evil.
That's it. You can
random white upper middle class dude with a mustache will put on a pair of dark glasses and hit you with a cattle prod because some dude behind the curtain said to.
And you ain't getting but $15 a day.
Well, I mean, it was the 70s and inflation's done a hell of a job on us, but no, there's no excuse there. There's none.
Still, that's selling your soul for the profit of a man. And they chose this. They chose to become this.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And that's just twisted. That whole concept just breaks my brain open.
Yeah, and notice how carefully he screened them. He knew exactly what he was looking for. He picked a select group of people
Yeah, well, one thing I can give him credit for on the experimental side, he did seem to attempt to filter out all race and monetary disparities between the individuals. For all intents and purposes, these people were all upper middle class, between 20 and 45, blue collar type folks that have a life, have a thing that they're doing. They're, well, not blue collar, but like uh the well, like, really, who agrees to do this type of experiment? I hadn't even thought about that, trash. I mean, they're sitting
Exactly.
around doing their usual day job. No, they don't have a day job because they signed up for this experiment, right?
These college kids, they're gonna get they're gonna get credit for this, for going to this experiment.
I hope they
That's
get
probably
something for it.
that's
Damn.
probably that's probably part of the catch that lures them in. They give them in there, okay, here go the paper, you're gonna get these extra credits for being part of this experiment. And they still don't tell you what the experiment actually is until the day of the experiment, when they come up and handcuff you, even though you know the situation already, that you're gonna be handcuffed at this time and walked out.
So this is a question. Are we assuming that they would have NDAs set up so that they couldn't discuss what was going to be happening in whatever level of experiment they had agreed to? Because
Because
how do you tell people, okay, so the cops are going to be showing up to arrest you, but it's all fake?
they probably signed a non-disclosure. They had to,
Right,
because
right. So
the way it was set up was too elaborate. It was exactly like a movie script.
exactly, you're right.
That's why
That's
that's why I was looking at it. I said it reminds me of a movie script brought to real life. But for a social experiment on this level, that the government let him, and the school nonetheless let him get away with, knowing how inhumane it was, tells me one thing about this experiment. It had some type of military bearing
well, it
behind
was funded
it.
completely by the Department of the Navy, dude, which is just insane. Why the fuck does the Navy need to know about prisoners?
But think about it from the Navy's point of view. They have,
Because you got a bunch of men locked up in tin cans floating around on the ocean with
yeah,
nothing better
not
to do but beat people up.
that, and then you want information from these people. You got you got these all this free taxpayer money that you can throw at these psychologists and psychiatrists and all this shit for these mind control programs and all this stuff. But,
That's baffling, dude. You're
but
breaking my brain open right now. Um,
think about it from the isolationist point of view.
yeah,
You
no,
got these guys at sea. They're in a floating prison.
yeah, no, I was just sitting there thinking this, like, they're isolated from the rest of the environment by the military, and then by the ship itself, and then by the individual metal boxes they're inside in the ship itself, and then by the individual cast of their military rank within that caste system of metal boxes that they exist in inside the ship itself.
Exactly.
It's like a knot on a log in the bottom of the sea, man. It's absurd.
But think about how long the government has been experimenting with isolation without people realizing it. It took me sitting in a prison cell to realize exactly what they were doing without anybody realizing it.
That's pretty cool.
Isolation is a motherfucker, man.
It is. Definitely. All right, we're almost there, dude. We don't have but like 30 minutes left. We can do it, right?
Yeah, we can do it.
We can do it.
The guards' accommodation was completely the opposite to the prisoners, with areas to change clothes after their shifts, plenty of space to move around on downtime, and plenty of opportunities for rest and relaxation. And that brings us on to the beginning of the experiment, Sunday, the 15th of August. Palo Alto police car pulls up outside a residence. A young man is taken outside, searched, handcuffed, given their rights, and put into the back of a vehicle. Onlookers stopped to see the unfolding drama, and this same scene would play out for 8 more people. The 9 men are taken to the police station where they're fingerprinted, have their details taken down, have a police file opened on them, and placed in a holding cell. Pretty much the standard for an alleged criminal. Although after a short while, each of the men are blindfolded and bundled into the back of a car and driven to the Stanford mock prison. Once arriving in the prison, each prisoner was stripped, sprayed with deodorant, which was standing in for a delousing spray, and made to stand naked in the yard for some time before being given a prisoner's uniform. From there,
Okay.
Now that part, they don't delouse you and all that shit, but they make you stand around naked and do the squat and cough before they give you some clothes.
Yeah.
They ain't gonna let you walk up to them nurses butt ass naked, shaking Mr. Willie at them.
Right. You better give him a heart attack, girl. Ooh. Oh, Mitch. Take you from all this. Right.
Something like that. But they
Absolutely.
did the great works though.
Yeah. Okay. So that much of it, at least, is acceptable in your eyes as far as the
Yeah.
experiment is concerned. They
That's
make naked, make them uncomfortable. Blindfolding though, or
nah.
is that a place of confusion?
That I ain't never seen that one.
Right. But
In
I think
all
they
my
do that
years.
to increase stress levels. No other reason.
Yeah. That and to bring your endorphin levels up to an extreme point where it causes you to crash.
Well, yeah, we get to the crashing pretty freaking soon. It don't take long.
they were photographed for a mugshot and given an identification number. After this, the prisoner was shown to their cell and locked away, and in the process being told to remain silent. When everyone was onboarded to their new home for the next 2 weeks, the warden went to introduce themselves and read each of the men the rules of the prison, which had been created by the guards the day before. The prison
Okay, the guards themselves, the guards involved in the experiment wrote the rules.
Not gonna happen.
Not happening.
The rules, they got a book of rules that comes from Tallahassee from the Department of Corrections.
Right.
It's called Institutional Operational Procedures, the IOP. And then it's got all the Florida statutes and everything that goes with it.
Yeah.
So
and pretty much anything that you do in the prison system that is not approved of by the prison system is an additional charge.
It depends on what it is. Usually it's just like you go to confinement for 15, 30, 45, 60 days or whatever. But now if you get caught with some drugs or manufacturing alcohol or bringing something in, then you can get an outside charge and go.
It's family tradition.
Yeah, something like that.
Might be guilty. Might have happened. Now, I'm not going to plead guilty, but I am going to plead I'm not pleading guilty.
Allegedly, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, wow. This is man, this is sadistic. This makes the Marquis de Sade look like a saint.
Oh wow.
Think about it.
No, you're right. Homie compresses about a 1 year, a 6 month prison sentence down into 6 days. These people were all out immediately. They were just like, we don't want to participate anymore, but they wouldn't let them just opt out like that.
Yeah. I'm telling you, he makes the Marquis de Sade look like a saint.
Wow.
Rules and their ID number had to be memorized and would be asked 3 times a day during roll call, once for each guard shift. The prisoners were only to be identified by their number. This was a further effort to depersonalize each inmate. Every day, the prisoners were scheduled for work time to earn their $15 per day, and were also allowed some exercise. On top of this, 2 visit periods were allowed per week. But these rules will be modified and degrade over the course of the study. Data during the study would be collected by Zimbardo's team in a number of ways. Filming the whole study, audio recordings from hidden microphones, rating scales taken of both guards and prisoners, and before the whole experiment, all participants undertook a series of paper and pencil personality tests. Back to the first.
All right. Do you reckon any of the guards in the actual prison system have actually had any personality test or IQ test or anything like that?
They go through an academy where they gotta pass. They actually gotta take a book test and they gotta pass it.
Okay.
And it's like a 3-ring binder, and it's got a lot of paperwork in it because they gotta know like all the disciplinary codes and all that shit for if you get in trouble and they gotta write a disciplinary report, they gotta know all the codes and how to write it and all that. So they pretty much
Paperwork.
Yeah, they got a lot of paperwork they got to do, but they get a psych evaluation, which ain't saying much.
Yeah.
I made the head psychiatrist in Tallahassee quit.
Right.
With one question.
Don't ask me here.
I only asked one question. All I asked him, what do guilt and rust have in common?
Oh, come on, man. Don't be like this.
Yeah. Isolation does this to you.
Yeah, I'll buy that. See, I grew up out in the middle of nowhere. I experienced my own form of isolation due to the lack of anyone else being out there. Yeah, I had a canoe and a fishing pole, but that was about it.
But think about that question, and think about asking somebody with a psychological background that question. Think about what it's gonna do to them.
Oh bother!
First day, after their interaction with the warden and tasked with memorizing the rules, the prisoners were left in their cells to settle in for the night. But that night would not be a quiet one when the first count was to be undertaken. At 2:30 a.m., the prisoners were rudely awakened by the guards. Needless to say, this didn't go down well. The prisoners were at this point still trying to assert their independence, and thus didn't take the count too seriously. Many of the prisoners refused to leave their cells, ripped off their inmate number ID tags, took off their stocking.
And this is the very first night.
That's bullshit.
The very first night.
If you don't get up if they come in at 2:30 in the morning, they coming in. It's either for a master roster count because somebody was missing, or they had a miscount, or they coming in to shake down, and they tell you to get your ass up, and you don't get up. When you turn around and look, the whole squad standing out there with the shields and the nightsticks and every goddamn thing else.
And you getting up.
You gonna get your ass up one way unless you got a doctor's order and you got a no prolonged walking or standing pass.
Right.
And then they got to treat you with certain amount of respect. Heart patients, they got to treat with certain amount of respect. Cancer patients.
So they basically pitch a fit. This is the very first night. These folks have already revolted on the guards.
So I totally disagree with that. Because they're going to come in there and kick some ass and ain't going to ask no questions. They're going to drag your ass out.
Let's see how it goes.
In caps and insulted the guards. But now unexpected rebellion spilled into the morning shift. By now the prisoners had barricaded the cells with their cots. The morning guards, frustrated with the rebellion in the early hours of the second day, called up the reserve guards who were at home and insisted on the night personnel to stay on. In a surprising ramping up of violence, the guards decided to use a fire extinguisher on the prisoners in their cells to try and quell the rebellion.
They did not notify the experimenters that a problem had arisen with their experiment. They didn't go to the warden. They didn't do it. They just looked at each other and said, "Hand me that fucking fire extinguisher. I got this shit."
Yeah,
that's madness.
That's notice what he did. He grabbed a fire extinguisher.
There's no way that was part of the experiment. That was something some random asshole did.
Yeah. But it made a motherfucker back up, especially
I
when
bet
them powder fire extinguishers. They should make a bitch back up quick.
Yeah, I'd have to.
Further still, the guards removed all of the prisoners' clothes, removed mattresses, and sentenced the main instigators to time in the hole. The rebellion was quashed, but clearly the guards had a problem. All 9 couldn't be there all the time, so how to effectively manage the inmates' behaviour? And one person suggested psychological methods. On the Monday night, in less than 36 hours after the experiment had begun, Zimbardo was forced to release one of the prisoners due to them showing signs of a mental breakdown. Before the release,
We're not even in 48 hours yet.
Exactly.
And one of these guys has already snapped and been like, oh, hell no.
Hey, notice what Doc say. I believe you're bullshitting. I think you're malingering.
Right. You're lingering on the mal side of it. You're mal lingering.
Yeah.
Sir.
Dude already done bugged out.
was offered a place as an informant in exchange of improved conditions, but he refused and was thus released. One of the 3 cells was to be used as a privileged cell. The 3 prisoners least involved in the rebellion were also given special treatment. They got their uniforms and their beds back and were allowed to wash and brush their teeth, but the other prisoners were not. On top of this, they were also allowed to eat special food in front of the others. All of this was intended to break the solidarity of the prisoners. After half a day of this, the 3 privileged prisoners were returned to the remaining inmate population. This also sowed doubt amongst the other prisoners as to whether the privileged 3 were actually informers. The prisoners were not allowed to use the toilet after lights.
Division on division on division. First, we divide you with guards and prisoners. Then we divide you with staff class system from the warden down, and a prisoner class system from the preferred to the least preferred.
Exactly. But think about this. It's the same as the slave mentality. They did the same thing all throughout history with slavery. There was classes of slaves from the palace on down. And this is the same thing in this experiment. It's slavery on the isolationist level without people realizing exactly what it is. You become a hive mind when you follow the program that
Yeah, you move with the herd, you move with the group you're most closely associated with. So
you create
I guess.
you create the herd. You create the herd mentality. Oh, these guys think like me, so I go here. These guys think like me, so I go here. Now you've got 2 divisions. Now what do? How do you divide them? You separate
You do
them.
some special stuff and some you punish.
There you go. And some you punish worse than others.
Right. And that's all it takes. So distrust and division among the prison population while creating a hierarchical class system within the actual administration side of it. And these people all divide themselves based on what it is they do and what they have to deal with.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, it's jobs. Yeah, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, instead, provided a bucket to relieve themselves.
All right. They took their toilet privileges and gave them a bucket in the cell instead.
And yeah, with no lid on it.
And we've only gotten to day 3. Diabolical, man. None of this was ever intended to be humane.
This is exactly what it was. Torture.
On day 3, for Tuesday, a visit was allowed from friends and family. In order to reduce the risk of complaints from the outside world, the prisoners were cleaned, shaved and fed. Furthermore, their cells were also thoroughly cleaned. To immerse the families in the experiment, they had to register, were made to wait half an hour, and were told only 2 visitors were allowed to see each prisoner. The total visiting time was also cut to only 10 minutes and was undertaken under surveillance of a guard. Before any family member.
All right. So you're going to get to see your family today. You've been here for 3 days. You get to see your family, but we're only going to let 2 come in, even though we said you could bring like 5 or 6, right? And they can't bring anything in with them, and you can't talk about anything that's not approved.
Yeah, that's totally wrong.
And after holding them for an amount of time that seems unreasonable, they only get 10 minutes alone with the prisoner, and it's not actually alone. There will be 2 guards in the room at all times.
Yeah. That's wrong. Even though they have guards in there, if you got 5 kids, you can bring all 5 kids in, as long as you got a birth certificate to prove they're yours.
Huh. What you saying? What if I'm not guards?
I'm just saying, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, somebody's name is on there.
You walk up to her and be like, damn, girl, you fine as a camel hair. Ain't now mammal anywhere that can compare to you, boo-boo. You want me to touch you? Don't you want to get raunchy? Don't you want to call me? You look like a Barbie doll because you so daggone fine. This old amount of mine work all kind of ways. I'm going to get you vertigo. My girl's so voluptuous, one strike, damn near venomous. I like the way you cooking, lady. You cooking up the right meat and potatoes. I'm feeling the way you filling up that skirt stopping traffic.
Doggy.
I went to a bar once. See, I don't believe in hitting them with like come on. I hit them with all of them at the same time. Take your pick. They're all great. They're all really good. One of my favorite.
The best one-liners.
What you want? A latte, a ham on rye? I just want to get in your bloodstream like E. coli. You so fly.
Hey, man, we better get on with this before we don't never get to the end.
We're never going to get there, are we?
Members into the visiting area, they had to discuss their son's case with the warden. Many of the prisoners complained about the rules, but were seeming to comply. Interestingly, the family members, rather than straight up complaining at their loved one's tired and dishevelled look, actually looked to improve the situation by appealing to the superintendent. One mother said, "I'm sorry, I don't want to make any trouble, but he just seems so tired," after Zimbardo asked her what the problem was with her son. After visiting hours, a rumour had started to spread that prisoner 8612, the one that was released on the Monday, was actually only pretending that he was suffering in the prison, and that he was planning to return to do a mass breakout. Zimbardo's team bizarrely...
Rumor spreads faster than the truth.
What do they say? That a lie can get around the world before the truth can get its boots on in the morning?
Exactly. A rumor spreads faster than truth because it grows wings.
Right. Just like Red Bull makes it sting. I mean, it grows wings. It gives you wings.
It does something.
It does do some kind of stuff. We're not entirely certain.
Now fully invested in the prison themselves, decided to place a new prisoner in the cell that 8612 had occupied. And this person was actually an informer. The study lead then went to Palo Alto Police Department and asked if he could have all the prisoners transferred to their jail. This request was refused due to insurance issues. Even more strangely, Zimbardo then decided to dismantle the jail immediately after the visitation, call in reinforcement guards, take all of the prisoners, place a bag over their heads, and escort them in an elevator to a 5th floor storage room to be...
He kidnapped 9 people.
Pretty much.
He straight up black bagged some guys in the middle of the night, threw them in a van, and took them to another unknown location where they could continue the experiment in more private conditions.
Boy, look at here. If that ain't a psychopath, I don't know what is. Because that's definitely some psychopathic shit.
I'm sorry, folks. It's allergy season in Georgia year round, and I'm still going at it, man. Between hiccups and sneezes, this stuff's killing me, man. We're all gonna die, but it's okay.
Be hidden away from any breakout attempt. Zimbardo was then to wait in the location of the now closed prison to confront any would-be liberator, to inform them that everyone had been sent home and that the experiment was over, only then to resume after the coast was clear. The prison break never materialized, and the rumor turned out to be just that, a rumor.
Okay, so the warden decides, not even the warden, because there was a experiment E that was the warden. Homie here decides that all of this stuff needs to take place so that they don't get their cover blown for the nefarious bullshit they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's why they black bagged them and moved them in the middle of the night.
Exactly. So that homie that was out wouldn't have any idea where the experiment was taking place. And people inside couldn't possibly
Hey.
tell it. Yes, sir.
I'm yelling at the dog.
Oh, good. I'm much better than a dog. I'm housebroken.
Once the prison was restarted, the guards continued to act sadistically to the prisoners by again refusing access to the toilet and forcing the men to do push-ups for hours on end. Another interesting thing the guards were doing was increasing the time it would take to do a count from just 10 minutes on the first day to several hours. On day 4, Wednesday the 18th, Zimbardo invited a Catholic priest to the prison to assess the situation. The invited clergy member had previously been a chaplain at a Washington, D.C. corrections facility. He interviewed each of the prisoners individually. Interestingly, half of the prisoners he spoke to introduced themselves by giving their numbers rather than their name. The priest asked each man, "What are you doing to get out of here?" When confronted with confusion from the inmates, the priest replied, if they didn't help themselves, nobody else would, that they were college students. They were bright enough to realize that they were in prison and that the only way to get out of prison was with a lawyer. Prisoner 819 was the only one to refuse to speak to the chaplain, instead insisting for a doctor. Eventually, he was convinced to come out and talk to the priest and the superintendent so that he could be diagnosed with what his problem was and what kind of medical practitioner he needed. 819 was escorted to a side room, given food.
So were they underfunded or just didn't care? That is not a Department of Corrections piece of equipment. That is some random shit off of a playground swing that they found in a supply closet downstairs. Or God forbid, this is something that they actually went out and bought for the experiment so they could chain people up like this.
The only time I seen chains like that on somebody's ankles is they had when you're on close management in Florida, they got a squad called the Restricted Labor Squad. They put chains with padlocks on them on your ankles, and you go out and chop wood and clean brush and all that, and you got chains on your ankles.
But are they not on shackles, or are they double loop?
They have shackles, but they have, like, if you go out, they'll put chains on because the chains are easier than the shackles because the branches and brush and all that stuff gets caught in the shackles, and then when you're trying to twist and get out of it, the shackles are cutting into your ankles.
Okay. All right. I just was unaware that this was an actual thing.
But you ain't walking around. Any other time you have shackles on, they ain't putting no chain on like that. And you definitely ain't walking barefoot.
Yeah, that was another thing I was going to bring up. The fact that homie's just kind of Jesus cruising around, you know?
Hey, I'm sitting here, and this experiment was destined to fail from the beginning.
Yeah, it wasn't. The experiment wasn't what people would do. The experiment was whether it was a yes/no answer. Are people evil? Will they do what they're told?
And it shows people once he institutionalized them people in 3 days. The priest was talking to them, and they're giving them their number instead of a name.
Exactly.
That made them into an animal right there. It turned them into a piece of cattle.
Exactly. a number. Exactly.
Food and had his leg chains removed. Upon his removal, the prison guards made the remaining inmates chant, 819 is a bad prisoner. This sent 819
This
into a
sounds
hysterical
Maoist.
fit of crying. When Zimbardo said it was time to leave the experiment, the prisoner replied, "No, I can't leave." 819 didn't want to leave, but instead wanted to go back in to prove that he was not bad. Shocked, Zimbardo broke character of the superintendent and reassured that the whole thing was an experiment.
I can do it though. I really can.
And it broke him that quick.
Uh-huh. We ain't even day 5, man.
You gonna turn this light off when you go to bed?
Now that was interesting how fast he flipped the script.
Right. Well, I mean, he immediately breaks character. He's like, "Psst, hey, dude, you go, like, for really, for serious."
It's just an experiment.
Yeah.
It's not real.
It's not real, bro. Wow. Fucking wow, man. Wow.
But you see how twisted this dude's mind is and how fast he thinks on his feet. He reeled that dude in so quick.
Freaking wow. 4 days. Your brain can be turned to Swiss cheese in less than 4 days by a skilled psychologist.
Only if you let them.
Well, you have to know that they're doing it. If you don't know they're doing it, it could just have its effect without you having any defense against it.
But you know, the thing about them psychologists and psychiatrists and sociologists, and they give them a set series of dispassionate questions to ask. This is what they train them with all through school.
Yes, sir.
So they ask these dispassionate questions looking for your responses. And the responses you give are the responses that they've learned that normal people would, in normal society, would give them.
Hello, Swiss Miss.
Then you got people that have the random bent of mind to have a different answer to the question that just kind of throws all their school teachings out the window.
Well, here's the thing about that. If you encounter these types of questions often enough, you can eventually recognize the pattern of the quote unquote dispassionate questions, right? And once you recognize the pattern and you hear that question again, you can give a nonlinear answer.
Exactly.
But you have to recognize it. You have to know it's being done.
But most people can't think nonlinear that fast.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
you have to nonlinear has to be normal.
Right.
Most nonlinear people know the fastest way from point A to point B ain't in a straight line.
Exactly.
The guards had now started using bags over the prisoners' heads as a routine form of punishment. After 819's departure, he was replaced by prisoner number 416, one of the study standbys. The 5th day marked another part of prison life, a parole hearing. The prisoners were chained together and ushered into the parole board meeting with bags over their heads so that they could not see or talk. The parole board were formed of people none of the prisoners had seen before, and each man was asked a question: would you forfeit the money you have earned so far to be paroled? Unsurprisingly, every inmate said yes. The head of the board was Carlo Prescott, the experiment's consultant and ex-convict. Even he had embraced his new assigned role. At the end of the parole board meeting, each person was told to go back to their cell and the board would consider their request. Every one of them did so calmly, but it was clear that their sense of reality was completely warped, even giving up the money, which was the sole reason for them being there in the first place. This would have been a perfect opportunity for the subjects to quit and leave, but by now were mindlessly following any order given to them.
And this goes for the guards and the prisoners. The guards are told, Get the prisoners over there. Don't let them talk to each other. The guards do this in their own way. Now, and I want to reiterate, none of these guards were taught to be guards. They're not prison guards. They have no idea what they're doing. They're just doing what they're told as far as they're told.
Well, if you notice, the stuff they're doing, they're putting bags over their heads and escorting them, just like they see in movies on TV. They're
Right.
doing exactly what they see on TV, and what they see. All that is what they see in the movie. They're acting out exactly what they see in the prison movies on TV.
Exactly. It's not real. None of this is real, and yet these people have completely folded into the program.
They forgot it was an experiment.
They gave up the money. You can have the money. Just tell me I'm a good prisoner.
They forgot that.
Classic case of covered me harder, daddy.
They forgot it was an experiment.
Exactly. In just 5 days. But then again, they're also suffering from sleep deprivation, general bad conditions, probably terrible food. They haven't said a word about the food. Stockholm syndrome. Exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
I mean, think about it. They got black bagged 2 days ago.
That's just, but you know what he kind of reminds me of? Zimbardo reminds me of a guy that had Munchausen's by proxy.
He induces Munchausen by proxy, bro.
Think about it like this. He's conducting an experiment, as twisted as it may be, on people. But that same experiment was conducted on him as he was growing up. So he takes all his hatred and creates a program of pure, unadulterated evil that's got hatred at its base. And he's using that hatred as a
I want to bring
division.
something up right here, because I think it bears being said. And we might be being a little too harsh on everyone involved in this experiment, but you should not attribute to malice anything that can be explained by indifference or ineptitude.
But his,
bad at
it. His though, I'm not saying it's just out and outright malice, but it seems malicious in its intent because of the way he went about creating it, from where he came, what he came through, to where he was when he created this program, and how he figured it would affect people and the way it would affect them.
I think he should have had at least one trained DOC guard there to kind of manage how the guards do things.
Yeah.
You don't learn anything from just bald-faced torture.
He should have had one there as like a person they could talk to off screen. Right. They explain what their job was.
Easily been a part of the experiment, just or a consultant on the experiment. There should have been at least one person aware of how prisons actually freaking function.
And they should have had an actual prisoner that they were communicating with to get a prisoner's perspective for the program.
Right, a trustee or something wouldn't have been a bad pick. Somebody that's not going to cause a problem in the process. But okay, yeah, no, this was all completely horrible. It was completely failed from the very beginning. The only redeeming quality of the experiment is it shows that people would just follow orders under the right circumstances if they are stressed enough.
And he definitely deprived them of everything that you possibly could, short of taking away a birth certificate.
Right. Well, I mean, once you're quoting a number as your personal identity, I mean, that's the only other place to go, is to not exist anymore.
They used to get mad at me. What your number is? Man, my name Mitch, man. You know what my name is. Quit asking. That's why I spent so much time in that cell, because I refused to toe the line.
Yeah. I don't prison.
It's one of those things. I don't regret anything because I look at regrets as life lessons. I
Yeah,
learned things and I
you, you
passed them on.
you earn your wrinkles and you earn your gray hairs from your bad choices. You get this way by living the life that has been laid before you the best as you can. And you end up in this circumstance specifically by making a series of good choices and bad choices.
I started my life out playing with a busted flush. I've been playing with a busted flush my whole life. I understand everything happens for a reason, and you are where you are for whatever purpose, either to learn something or to teach somebody something. So
Amen, brother.
I wake up every morning happy because I woke up. It can't do nothing but go up. It can't do nothing but go uphill from now.
I get up, look in the mirror, and go, "Damn, thank you, God! Wow."
Me, I wake up in the morning and I say, "Damn, no more gray hair."
I think if I started going bald, I'd just shave my head. I think I'd just skip to the end. I don't see myself tolerating it well.
You look
All right.
like Mr. Clean with a beard.
No, actually, I have a really weird shaped head, like a peanut.
You look like a hairy M&M that they found under the couch.
Oh, you mean?
Zimbardo now observed the guards form into three different types: good guys, who were sympathetic to the prisoners; tough but fair guards, whose orders were always within the rules of the prison's operation; and finally, the sadistic, who, for any reason, would punish and humiliate the inmates. By now, the prisoners had become completely introverted, and all bonds had broken within the cells. One final act of rebellion manifested itself in prisoner 416, whom had been a stand-in brought in the day before. He went on hunger strike. The guards tried to make him eat, but to no avail. Interestingly, his co-inmates also turned against him, seeing this last stand as an act of troublemaking. The guards, after attempting to force-feed the inmate, even roped the other prisoners into forcing him. As part of the psychological warfare, everyone in the cells was threatened with punishment unless 416 would eat. Visits from loved ones planned for the evening was taken off the table. And this was the moment the inmates completely turned on 416, screaming at him, cursing him, telling him he had to eat, even saying they weren't going to be inconvenienced by his stupid act of defiance. 416 was bundled into solitary confinement for 3 hours, even though the agreed maximum time was just 1 hour. The head guard on shift, unluckily for 416, was the most sadistic, nicknamed John Wayne. He gave the prisoners a choice: 416 out of solitary in exchange for their blankets, or they could keep them, and 416 would stay locked up all night. The prisoners opted to keep their blankets. During visiting time that evening, a number of inmates' parents requested Zimbardo contact a lawyer in order to get their son out of prison. A lawyer was called up and attended for interviews of each of the prisoners. The prison had completely devolved into the harshest guards' realm, with the good guards not challenging immoral acts and even enabling them. The evenings in the prison were worse for arbitrary punishment when the guards thought the experimenters weren't watching. Enter Christina Maslach, a recent PhD student and early in her professional career. She visited the prison and was very well known to Zimbardo, and in fact a year later would even marry him. She was
So what you're saying without saying it is she was also a psychopath.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
How do you walk into this situation and see these people behaving the way they are behaving and decide, oh, my prince, my knight in shining armor?
Because he's got two faces.
I don't care how many faces that motherfucker got. He's got folks locked in cages with no clothes.
Yeah. But
They're
think about
not guilty of anything.
Hey, well, think about it. She's a researcher trying to get her PhD.
Boy.
They're a match made in
Oh,
heaven.
damn, son. Oh, my God. You're right. You're right.
They're a match made in heaven.
Oh, wow.
A sociopath and a psychopath. She's a
Yeah, no,
She's a sociopath because she's following his lead.
you might exactly be on point. That's not a bad observation. All right, we're almost there. We can do it. We've got faith. We can do it.
Shocked to discover the horrendous conditions of the experiment and appealed to Zimbardo, stating his lack of caring oversight and the immorality of the study. Additionally, she pointed out that Zimbardo had been changed by his role of superintendent in the experiment into someone she did not like. This, in addition to the obvious signs of deterioration of the mental well-being of the prisoners, led to the beginning of the end of the Stanford prison experiment. On the sixth day, Friday, the 20th of August, the study was cancelled, over a week earlier than originally intended. The final day involved debriefing of both study groups. The encounter groups, as Zimbardo called them, were undertaken first with all the guards, then with all the prisoners, including those who had been released and had been invited to come back, and finally a meeting for all the guards and prisoners and staff together. This allowed the participants time to get their feelings out in the open and to start a kind of moral reconciliation between all involved. Questionnaires, similar to the ones filled out at the start of the study, were given to each participant to be filled out and posted to Zimbardo's team. Even though the experiment ended early, the full amount for the 14 days was paid to each participant, $210, roughly 40.
All right. So $210 for 7 days. Call it 7 days because the work down probably took a day, right?
Yeah. So
So call it 7 days, and the rest of their life thinking about it.
think about how fucked up they are in their mind from just those 6 days. And most of them, I wonder what happened to most of them.
Right? He goes into a little bit of it. He follows a couple of them through for a few years after.
Because I think a couple of them lost their damn mind behind that one. Because that was literally
that's adaptation there, bud, not abdication. Autocorrect's a bitch, ain't it? Sorry.
Abdication, huh?
Right?
They abdicated their brain patterns.
It's all over but the crying on that one. You can't have it no more. You abdicated 25,000. Actually, no, they get to that in a second. See, that initially they were paid the $210, but I think every single one of these people went back and sued the people responsible for the experiment.
They should have.
Sure, I'm pretty sure. I don't know that for a fact. I haven't seen this video in a couple of months, but I wanted to kind of take a look at it from fresh eyes with somebody to talk to about it, try to get a clear view of exactly what this man was intending to do. But yeah. We're almost there, dude. We've almost done it.
I think we can make it.
I think we can do it.
Invited to return to the university a week later to share their opinions and emotions. And thus the experiment was over. But what of the results? Well, Zimbardo interpreted the results, but it wasn't the individual personalities of the participants, but the prison itself that shaped the outcome. After all, Zimbardo had taken, in any other way, normal people at random and merely applied different roles, be it prisoner or guard. The two groups had the same goal of entering the study, and that was to get some extra money for 2 weeks of apparently on the outset easy work. Zimbardo took the experiment as an example of situational application, where the environment shaped the person's actions. He compared the prison
smoking funny as hell.
Milgram's study 10 years earlier, where the
Shall we look into Stanley Milgram's study at some point in time in the future? Because that's another really good one. You remember that one?
I don't remember this one.
All right, that's the one where they hooked up people with electrodes and they gave one group of people the ability to shock the other group of people
Oh
and
yeah.
told them what was happening when in reality the people weren't being shocked at all, but they had good scream queen actresses come in and pretend they were being shocked.
Yeah, I remember somebody was telling me about it.
It's a good one. I mean, it's evil, don't get me wrong, but at least they took like a humane perspective at it. They didn't attempt to do it for real, but they convinced the people doing the experiment that what they were doing was actually happening.
Yes, that's that mass hypnosis shit.
Yeah, some of that trash, right? I mean, it's oh god, it's so evil. Ugh. Anyway, we're almost there. We're gonna do it.
Perceived authority of the scientist resulted in study participants administering a potentially deadly electric shock to another person. Although personality was thought not to be the reason for the way the prison experiment played out, Zimbardo did concede that the individual did affect certain outcomes, such as individual level of rebelliousness of the prisoners and the level of cruelty shown by the guards. The experiment almost immediately invited criticism for the ethical way it was conducted, exposing the prisoners to a high risk of psychological injury. The apparent chaos in which the experiment devolved into meant that Zimbardo's team's conclusions were pretty anecdotal and relied on the experimenter's subjective understanding of the individual's behaviour. The guards were actively encouraged to participate more and be more tough for the benefit of the experiment by David Jaffe, who was acting as the warden, and also subsequent attempts to recreate the results have failed. Another criticism comes from Zimbardo taking on the role of superintendent himself, which gave him the excuse.
All right, so there's a distinction here. All of the later experiments involved using either actual prisoners or actual guards.
They all
And,
failed.
and the experiments always come out the same, where people are either just punching a clock to get in and get out, or they're acting like little assholes because they're pretending to be prisoners. And that's that movie prisoners, and that's how it goes.
That's why I said this. It was like a movie script, and yeah, they use like forms of torture and shit like that. But
Absolutely.
this stuff here was just so far out of the norm that it didn't even look real.
I mean, yeah, exactly. None of this was real or accurate, and so you wonder how much of the actual behavior was behavior that was undertaken because they were asked to by the experimenters.
What
Because, like the hunger strike,
not just that. Look at the way he never said anything really until that dude acted up and wanted to leave.
exactly, and then they kidnap him, black bag him, take him to another location.
As soon as they
Wow.
let that dude go, everybody got snatched up and was gone.
Huh. None of this has any really valuable information in it.
But
It's
actually,
just
it does. Think
what?
about it from this point of view. It was military funded, right?
Oh,
Who would benefit best from an experiment like this on foreign soil?
yeah,
One
yeah,
of
yeah.
them, the alphabet, right?
This is some of that pre-Gitmo shit.
Yeah, think about it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, dude.
Oh, I got a fucked up way of looking at shit, but when you look at all the aspects of it and where it originated and who was behind it, and then you think about where the world is today and why all of these experiments failed, they haven't failed because they've been using them in the Bay of Pigs. And somebody finally exposed them with the waterboarding and all that. But
Yeah, no, that whole scene over there is not is very reminiscent of the Stanford prison experiment. When all the pictures and stuff came out about that stuff,
My point exactly.
it looks exactly like the dehumanization of individuals for the sport of others.
Yeah, they were tying they were tying their right hands to their legs, so they had to use their left hand to eat.
Yeah, yeah,
Think about it. That's the worst. That's one of the worst things you can do to one of them people is make them eat left-handed
yeah.
because
Uh,
they wipe their ass with their left hand.
yeah, I know, dude.
So
Um,
that's
so what's the general takeaway from this whole situation? Homie does this experiment that has um questionable morality and virtually no ethics involved, little or no training involved.
and
There's
no scruples whatsoever.
no scruples whatsoever. I mean, none of these people were actually trained to do the job they were expected to do. They were just kind of tossed in there to figure it out.
And
But there's no accuracy there.
but the experiment failed as far as everybody, the media and everybody was concerned that was following it. But as far as the government was concerned, it was a success.
Oh yeah, no, that makes a little bit of sense.
Think about it.
It was a
He
it was a
he had 2 weeks.
experiment.
The government gave him 2 weeks to break these people. He broke them in six. He broke them in 6 days. But now
That's true.
the government didn't tell him how to break them. He said, "Okay, you got this prison project. Okay, let's turn it into an experiment. Let's see what we can do with it." And the government's been experimenting with isolation as far back as you can look in
So
history. Isolation, even in the old castles, they had dungeons. Then they had under dungeons. Then they had under dungeons. And they
right.
put you down there in the very bottom with the
Then
rats.
they had the oubliette.
Yeah, they put you down in there in the rats next to the outhouse.
Next to it, nothing. The oubliette is the outhouse, bro. It's at the bottom of the poop chute.
And it's what think about this experiment from a military standpoint.
No, I don't like that. It makes me uncomfortable.
Exactly. My point exactly. Now that you know exactly what it is and how it functions, what you're getting it from an actual person that's actually been inside that chain link and razor wire inside of one of those cells. I've literally seen things happen that are hard to explain to most people because they have the rational societal mind that doesn't think along those lines. And it's an impossibility because the numbers don't work. And I tell people, math doesn't always play a part in things. Everything ain't got nothing to do with physics. Some things have to do with the spiritual level of things. If you destroy a man's spirit, it won't die, but you damn sure can bend it to a point where it'll twist itself into doing whatever you tell it to do. And I'm a living witness to that. You can twist a man's spirit to a point
They're
where
still low key doing shit like that in most jails. I
yeah,
feel like. I mean, I can't speak about other jails other than the one that I've been in, but like right now, they're using the social distancing thing, and also the fact that our local jail is like extremely understaffed. And when I say extremely, I mean it like I don't even know how it's actually open. They're so understaffed, but they use that as an excuse to keep the inmates locked back about depending on what day of the week it is and how many of their COs come in. Some days you can get locked back for the whole 24 hours and not have any free time at all. And they don't have to, according to them, they don't have to let you out but 1 hour of those 24 hours. That's all they're legally like have to do. That's all they legally have to allow you out for an hour to do, like phone calls and take a shower. But they only have to do that, I think, once or twice a week. So they are still low key doing that like isolation experiment on the population. And
They ain't
it's
gonna never
bullshit.
stop doing it because they always
Exactly.
come up with a new weird idea to see if it works.
Mhm.
All right, check it out. Our poll results was the Stanford prison experiment ethical. 76% people say no, 23% say yes, and I have an additional question. Do we do a panel show from here for, I don't know, an hour or two? Or do we go backstage and have some really like I'll twerk?
Hey, we gotta bring Lawless up. Lawless got some interesting.
I would love for Lawless
I
to come
wasn't
up.
even ready
I
for
don't know if
that.
he wants to do it live or backstage though. That's the thing.
We can stay live for a little bit, then we can go backstage and dig into whatever we're gonna dig into.
Can you not twerk out here? Like you can't. That can't just be a
No.
thing.
When I twerk, it alters the
I tried, guys.
I can tell Tommy to
everybody, I
twerk.
tried.
I can tell Tommy over here to twerk. Tommy twerk every once in a while.
Oh, no. We're not that kind of channel.
And
That's
it's
a
only
different.
Tuesday.
It's only Tuesday.
It's
Exactly.
twerking Tommy toward his Tuesday.
Yeah.
Anybody remember the what was it, what's the name of AVP or APV? Something prison. Oh my God. I can't remember his name. He had this whole prison army. He did a prison stories channel and he tried to flip a couple of houses, lost his ass in the crypto market. Oh wow, I should do a total expose on that channel. I have too many.
Yeah, because I have no clue what channel you're talking about.
You talking about the motivational speaker dude? He came out of prison, was a motivational speaker and all that shit.
Oh my God, it was
deploy or some shit.
Not that dude, not the dude that looks like Macho Man Randy Savage had a hate child. Hogan, not that dude, but he's cool. Don't get me wrong.
He's funny as fuck.
I gotta get that link.
Y'all be slipping.
Just based on that alone, I just gotta get that link.
What's up, Scully?
Yeah, I watch a huge variety of channels too. Sometimes I forget and I'll like screenshot something for like one particular thing and then get ready to post it. And then I'm like, oh no, I got to blur all that shit out because don't nobody need to watch everything or need to know everything that I watch on YouTube. That's none of y'all's business. It would just look, I just know sometimes at a glance, it would probably look really weird because then there's like auditors, but then I watch a lot of channels that have to do with like, leaving the Mormon church. So a lot of people that used to be in the Mormon church but have left the Mormon church, I follow a lot of their channels because of the true crime stuff that I follow that has to do with people in the Mormon church. So if at a glance it would just look really weird. It would just look really weird. Then there's like people that I follow that do art. So sometimes, and I get all those notifications at once. And then Sasquatch will be smack dab in the middle of all that.
Well,
and that's usually what I'm trying to get.
Mention my list.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. If mine is, I can't even imagine what yours must be like.
See, if I find out I'm subscribed to somebody that's got like over 150,000 subscribers, I will go unsubscribe from them so that I can subscribe to somebody with like 400 subscribers. They don't need my help.
Yeah.
Now, there are exceptions to that. NC Tyrant Hunter.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
If he breaks 150,
I'm subscribed to him.
Care. I'm gonna stay subscribed to him. He's a good man.
Oh, yeah.
He does. Yeah. If you don't stay subscribed to you, he gonna come over here and give you the bam.
I wish he would come over.
Yeah, exactly. Bam.
He gonna give you the bam. Take that with you.
The bam.
The bam. Bam.
He
That's
gonna
the
give you.
whole reason I subscribe.
He gonna give you the big bam. Take that with you.
That's right.
And because he's from North Carolina, there was no way that I wasn't going to subscribe to him. Like, hello.
Yeah, first
That would
Sasquatch.
just
Lawless,
be
hit the link. It's pinned up yonder. Come up here and scream at me. Tell me I'm an asshole. I'll tell you drop common loot. It'll be all right. I offended that man, and I'm kind of sorry about it, but
that
at the
is
same time, it was an excellent skit. It was beautiful. And I did tell him I was going to tell him a joke later that might offend him, but I didn't mean nothing by it. And you can see out in his head when he hears it. He goes, it's beautiful.
I've heard, man, listen, I've heard some of the most fucked up jokes.
y'all.
No, sir, you're not doing that on this channel
So,
tonight.
No, I wouldn't even
despite
tell. I
all
wouldn't
of
even tell
my
none of them. I wouldn't even tell it. 'Cause believe it or not, a white guy told me this joke, and the first thing he said, "Man, this joke is fucked up. Don't beat me up when I say it." And then he got to the end, and the whole joke changed. But coming from a white guy, the first thing he thought was, "Man, please don't beat me up when I tell you this."
Actually, and as far as that goes, most of my black friends really like to tell me really bad white jokes. And then they'll ask me, because I tell jokes, apparently I'm good at it or something. They'll be like, so what kind of black jokes you know? And I'm like, dude, are you trying to get me shot out here tonight? Like, what the hell? Is this a trap? This is a trap, isn't it? You got cameras in the keys.
Okay, so like I'm not. I don't know any. Is that just like because don't? I was like, I don't even want to say that out loud because I'm like, wait a minute, Emmy, you should know at least one. Like, and then I'm sitting here, I'm like, I don't. Like, I literally don't know any. Which my friend's gonna come downstairs in a minute. He's gonna be freaking pissed. He's gonna be like, you don't remember any of the jokes that I've low key been telling you for like 8 years?
No. Stop. I gotta ask you.
I don't.
Straight. I just want to be sure. Nowhere in your entire life do you interact with a black person?
Well, yeah. When I was in school, I got bullied by a black girl when I was in school, when I was in elementary school. But I still didn't think, I need to go look up some black jokes and drop them on a bitch. I didn't do that.
Careful.
No, never.
Territory.
But I did. Does that mean I'm like, oh, I'm fucking lame?
I can prove you're racist. Do you want me to prove you're racist? Watch this.
Okay.
How many Bantu tribesmen does it take to screw in a light bulb?
1.
You've
What's
heard this
answer?
or you sad
No,
person.
I haven't. No, I haven't.
How about you, old guy Mitch? How many Bantu tribesmen does it take to screw in a light bulb?
If they speak in Bantu, apparently they ain't screwing in no light bulbs because they still in Africa in the bushes.
But it only takes one. They're humans. I didn't know you were racist, dude. Why in the world?
I was just thinking it should only take one ass person to do a screw in a light bulb, just one. That doesn't mean I'm racist. That just means I have common sense.
Now I beg to differ with that.
Okay, go ahead.
Because if the light bulb is over 6 feet long, and you gotta put that motherfucker in, it take 2 people.
I know that's right. Oh my gosh, you're so right. Because those lights that are in up there, those are a bitch to do by yourself. The ones that are like, mine are not quite 6 foot long, but they're the ones that go like, they're office lights. What are they, like 3.5, 4 feet long?
Yeah.
Something like that. They're longer than my wingspan pretty much. Because, no, fuck that. I can't even remember how I got those bitches up there.
Wings you got, baby. I need to know.
What?
How many
my
wings
wingspan?
How many wings you got?
I'm still looking for some feathers.
I want one feather. I'll accept insect wings at this point.
What do you call that's called a wingspan? That's what that's called.
You got some gossamer. Hey, I know why we can't see them. They're made out of gossamer. The real thing. It's holographic. They're holographic. My wings are holographic. Oh, you kind of got some
witches don't even have wings. I have a broom. Hello.
That makes no sense. How can you?
What does your broom say Bissell on it now? Because they quit making them sweet brooms.
You get a Nimbus 2000. I'm an American wizard. Alakablam. My wine's perfect.
My broom is like one of those cinnamon brooms that you get. Like cinnamon.
Oh, she riding on the cinnamon. She riding on the cinnamon.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh my
Those
God,
cinnamon
yeah.
brooms. Oh my God.
Box of those damn things down here at the Harveys
Oh my
over here.
God.
Oh, out was,
They
They
are the
smell good
shit.
for about 4 days.
I tell you what I
They're
do
so
with them. I
I
stick
know.
them in the back of the truck. I just toss them back yonder, close the door, leave it in there.
Hey,
my
Yeah,
my truck smells like an opium den. Yes.
I'm sure. That's what I was getting ready to say. What is that even about?
You ever been to one of those Indian stores, those Indian liquor stores, and they open that window and you catch that full force cologne bathing effect they have? It's like reaches out,
That
slap.
smells like patchouli and
You just
curry.
he killing me over
Yeah,
that's what my truck smells like. A French horn.
and like a splash of cinnamon.
Nah,
That's
the
what it
ones
smells
that
like.
the ones that kill me is when you walk into the Indian store and it smells like garlic, sweat, and patchouli.
Yeah, yeah. And patchouli is supposed to be good at like masking a lot of stuff. Some stuff it does not mesh with well,
No,
and it will
I
end
got
up
one,
making you
I
smell
got
like
one that
ass.
some chilies fucked me up.
But most
Yeah,
people put too much on.
I had a dog many moons ago named Cole, and Cole was a Great Dane Mastiff mix, and he was fucking massive. He was like enormous. He was 100 pounds at 6 months. Ginormous dog.
He wasn't a
Absolute
dog, he was a horse.
right.
Yeah, no shit.
Unbelievably well trained. I could tell him to go get me a drink out of the refrigerator. The hardest part was teaching him to shut the door. You could lay out a whole spread of pork chops in that refrigerator and he'd go get a drink and walk away from them. Yep.
Oh wow.
Okay. So
That's a good
this
dog.
dog decides he's going to nibble on a piece of couch. My wife calls me up and goes, "Hey, the dog is chewing on a spot on the couch." I was like, probably somewhere the cat peed or a baby peed or something. Go get you some red pepper off the spice rack. Go sprinkle it on the couch. That dog rips every single bit of stuffing out of that thing and leaves nothing but a skeleton behind. When I come home, he's chewing on the arm of it like it's his favorite chew toy. So I called the guy whose couch it was like, "Hey man, my dog just trashed out your couch. I'll get you a new couch next week.
Oh
Do you
yeah.
have a particular, yada, yada?" And he's like, "It's no problem. We'll work it out. I got it pretty cheap. We'll find another one." I said, "Okay, cool." I wake up the next morning and found him sitting at the breakfast table eating cayenne peppers out of a jar and tossing my dog one every other pepper. And my dog was sitting there eating it. And I said, "Dude, you're feeding my dog peppers?" He said, "Yes, sir, I am." I said, "Okay, I'm not buying you a couch because the standard operating procedure for stopping a dog from messing with something,
It's pepper.
you turned it into seasoning.
Pepper.
You trained my dog to eat cayenne peppers." He said, "Yeah." I said, "I use cayenne peppers to keep him from messing with stuff, which is why he's
That's
chewed up that blanket and this couch and that freaking."
yeah, because
What?
it's so good.
Flavored it for him. We flavored it for him. It
Gave
was like
him a little taste treat.
He's like, "Thanks, mama." Rolling in it, eyes all watery.
And didn't care a little bit because it tasted
Not even
good.
look. He's over there sneezing. I come in, he was laying on the
Crazy.
skeleton, what had once been a very nice couch. The skeleton,
The
the
whole ass
wood
cow.
skeleton, yeah. Mm, 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 mm. What do you know about DoubleSpeak?
Are you asking me?
Either one of y'all.
It sounds trickery. It sounds like trickery, and I refuse to do word salad mumbo jumbo. So yeah,
Okay.
that's how I feel about DoubleSpeak.
I have the opinion that modern leftism, the democratic narrative cannot exist without doublespeak. It simply
Yeah,
can't.
I know.
You have to
This
be able.
is so weird that you brought this up.
I've been sitting, dude. I've been watching all of the political stuff, and I don't typically go.
Have you seen Tim IRL. Have you seen TMIRL? Is that what this is about? Have you seen that?
No,
Have you recently
no.
come across? Okay. I watched about
This has
2
to,
minutes
no,
of
no.
him this morning before
Yeah.
I had a meltdown over what you're talking about.
This has to do with the different types of ads and whatnot that have been perpetrated on places like the BBC, everything in Hollywood, all of your major broadcast networks are all pushing this weird sort of I don't know. It's a false perception of the world. It's not
Yeah.
real. People don't actually do those things. You know what I mean?
They're
Like this
they're
whole Bud
pushing
Light,
Yeah.
the Bud Light thing.
they're pushing one narrative on the surface, but pushing a subliminal narrative at the same time with the stuff they're showing you in the background. Because people forget, like,
If you listen to the stuff that comes out of their mouth, it
uh,
sounds kind of reasonable at first, right?
uh,
If you just hang on the buzzwords and what they say they're doing, it's fine. But when you look at the actual fallout of the policies that they have put into place and the fact that they're not only still backing those same policies, they're doubling down on the amount of money they're willing to spend on it. I'm sorry, dude. It's pissing up a road.
yeah, but you know something else that a lot of people overlook. There's bills that were written when Richard Nixon was in office that are just now coming into fruition now. And a lot of people don't realize some of these bills, even some of the bills that Herbert Hoover wrote, are just now coming. Some of the bills Truman wrote are coming. They're using Truman's New Deal. The Democrats are pushing Truman's New Deal bill on the
They're
slide.
actually identical wording too.
It's almost identical, but see, most people haven't read it. You're the first person I've talked to that actually knows that
I've
it's
only read
almost identical word for word.
I read enough of it to be like, okay, that just changed the word industry for the green industry. This just changed the concept of employment into green employment, and that just changed. That was really, I mean, there's a few other things in there that are
The whole precept of the New Deal was one world government with one world economy and one world religion, masked as a democracy. But they tried to suppress what Aldous Huxley said. In a paraphrase, he said, democracy is a prison without fences that people become accustomed to. Think about it.
I get what you're saying. I've read Aldous Huxley. The Brave New World is a disturbing dystopian concept that we have surpassed in spades with simply having a cell phone in our pocket. We always thought it
So
would
is
be big.
1984.
That's what I was going to next. We always thought it would be
Yeah.
Big Brother watching a whole unit, an
Yeah.
organization over here whose responsibility it is to double check and make sure that you're towing the line and everything. But that's not the case. We ended up with AI algorithms actually doing it, and there is no actual Big Brother doing it. It's people like the CEO of YouTube making blanket decisions based off of ideology rather than fiscal policy.
Yeah. But
Any other
that
CEO
was the whole thing. Like all the policies that YouTube has are handed down from Google, and those policies that Google hands down are handed down from Alphabet. Alphabet is restructuring everything to keep up with Elon Musk, and Mark Zuckerberg is restructuring all his stuff to try to keep up with both of them. And at the same time,
And
they're trying to
Bezos.
keep SEC out of their pocket, and they're trying to keep Chinese guy with the Chinese search engine over there, whatever the fuck it is, Alibaba or whatever the fuck it is nowadays.
Yeah, no, I know.
They're trying to keep him out of the loop, but they're all tied in because Elon Musk launched all the Starlink satellites that everybody's using for communication now. But now,
Right. I can't ever keep them all straight, man. Like I just be throwing that trash out. Like I assume my brain's going to correlate it properly.
The New Deal and the Fed.
But what really they're all trying to do is push it towards the UBI so that we're all on the universal basic income so that we're all making like the same amount of money and we all live in those little bitty fucking one room apartments and we're all going to be happy because we're going to own nothing. That whole bullshit. That's what they're trying to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've already eaten a few bugs.
Yeah.
It's a form of communism with some Marxism, some Leninism, and a whole lot of hatred spread across it.
Yeah,
and they made it into a giant shit sandwich that don't work.
This ideology can only function as long as everyone hates each other, and you have to hate each other in the group, and anyone outside also has to hate each other for it to succeed. Because consider the people on that side. They hate each other so much they don't even breed.
Exactly.
They don't get married. They have partners. They don't have families. They have collectivisms. They have groups. They have family units that are actually friends and neighbors and stuff, not actual blood relatives and stuff. You know, they substitute all the things of a normal family through their associations in their jobs and their freaking universities. They treat their professors as parental figures. They treat their friends as peer groups, and they treat their the people that are outside of the system as the ostracized because you're not educated.
And it's a serious thing called, as long as there's chaos, there's control. When there's no more chaos, there's no more control, because you can't control what's not chaotic. What's chaotic has its own control. That's why the ostracized are always outside of the normal ways of society, because we're free thinkers and we're individual and we're not wired right. That's the bottom line. We just ain't wired right.
We've reached a point in our governmental history where the government has decided that the proper and useful form of the citizenry is to work for the government or support the government. And if they're not doing that, then they're not a part of all of this. However, the government is also comprised largely of blue voting, nihilistic, line-towing individuals who all vote for the same block because they work for the government. Yeah. And this goes on any level you want to go. Anytime you get a group more than 6 people together, you can tell exactly who's going to be voting left versus right based on how they group up, because they will immediately go into personal attacks and try to make a vote out of it. Democrats are the worst. And when I say that, I mean democracy. The concept of democracy is an anathema to governance. You cannot govern with a democracy because only the mob will rule, and the mob is a moron.
You know, that's like, I was talking to this guy who lives in my neighborhood. I found out the other day he's a constitutional law scholar, and I said something to him, and he looked at me like, "Now, what made you say that?" I said, "Now, when they wrote the Pledge of Allegiance, it didn't say nothing about a democracy, because they were escaping a democracy. They said, I pledge allegiance to the Republic of the United States of America."
Yeah.
It doesn't say nothing about a democracy. And he said, you know, I didn't think about that.
You're a constitutional republic.
Every single state was a republic.
We hold certain elections democratically.
Yeah.
Not the presidential election. You can go put that in your hash pipe and smoke it, because the Electoral College determines who's president, not a popular vote.
Yeah, and
which is why I get frustrated when people are like, you need to go vote, it matters. No.
Well, it does, because our elections
are
about percentages of votes in most states, but not in certain states where it's full block determination by whoever wins the majority vote. And you got a pie on a map who has unions and who's free work states based off of that one determination.
Yeah.
It gets, when it comes time to vote and all that stuff, you gotta look at a lot of things. You gotta look at how the districts are set up and who's doing what and what has this person done. Like,
I agree, but at the same time, left or right, you're still voting for the same dirty bird.
Yeah,
Yep.
it comes down to the lesser of two evils. Which one's
What's up,
not as
baby?
bad as the other one?
Click that link. Come on up here and talk to me, sweetest. We're gonna have us a conversation.
Uh-oh.
Link
That's
both you
why I
in.
just don't. I never have. I have like literally no interest in it. I don't do none of that.
Man,
Just absolutely. That's my personal choice and how I choose to combat against the government, which I refuse to be any participant in
well,
their
see, these
stupid
Get your
behavior
light
that
system.
other than taxes. You gotta
man,
pay.
these are the
There's no
kind
way
of
around.
conversations. These are the kind of conversations that are good to have because it gives you more insight into how people actually view the
Mhm.
political situation of the world and what they're doing with the situation in the world. Because you can literally sit back and look at and watch how they're destroying the world.
Yeah.
I got a friend that's boots on the ground over there in Israel. He's in the military, but he's boots on the ground over there. And he's literally been picking up scrub clean Israeli weapons from the unalive Hamas people.
Oh
They're using
wow.
Israeli weapons on Israelis. Old Israeli weapons on Israelis.
Well, yeah. Because wouldn't they? Aren't now? Correct me if I'm wrong. Because I don't like to watch stuff like that. I don't watch the news, so I'm like, in some aspects of this stuff, like I'm about as far removed from it as you can possibly be.
I don't
Like, would the Hamas be just uh, fundamentalist Israelis? Wouldn't they just be like radicalist Israelis?
know.
Right?
They're Palestinian terrorists,
Okay.
or
So then, how did they get?
they're allegedly those kind of people. But